this video is about. She went to the train station and a millionaire sat beside her. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The relentless hum of the train station enveloped Clara as she stepped onto the platform, her heart mirroring the vibrant chaos around her. She clutched her worn leather satchel closer, the scent of aged hide grounding her amidst the flurry of travelers. Clara had never been particularly drawn to the idea of travel, but today felt different. It was a day of beginnings, a fresh start, perhaps. She took a deep breath, pushing her dark curls behind her ear. The smell of coffee from a nearby cafe filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of a train's horn. It felt warm, inviting, and oddly comforting. Clara glanced at her watch, its face reflecting the uncertainty that flickered within her. 10 minutes until her train arrived, and with it a chance to escape the monotony that had become her life. Her thoughts drifted to her job at the small publishing house. The endless struggle to get authors noticed, and the frustration of endless rejections had worn her down. Today, she intended to visit a friend, a fellow writer who had found success in the city. It was a fleeting hope that she might absorb some of that magic, rekindling her own passion for words. As she settled onto a weathered bench, Clara noticed a striking figure a few seats away. The man was engrossed in a thick book, a luxurious leather jacket draped over his broad shoulders. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and as he turned the page, she caught a glimpse of sharp jaw and intriguing green eyes. There was something about him, an air of quiet confidence that drew her gaze. She shifted uncomfortably, feeling a flush rise to her cheeks. What was it about him that made her suddenly self-conscious? Perhaps it was the way he seemed utterly engrossed in the world of his book, as if he existed in a realm separate from this bustling station. Or perhaps it was the way he occasionally glanced up, his eyes scanning the crowd before resting on her for a brief moment. The train whistle pierced the air, sending a shiver of anticipation through her. Clara's heart raced, not just for the impending journey, but for the stranger who seemed to hold a magnetic pull. She looked down, her fingers running nervously over the smooth surface of her satchel. He was handsome, undoubtedly, but there was also a sense of mystery about him. Just then, the man shifted in his seat, closing his book with a soft thud. He stood, and for a moment Clara hoped he would walk away, back into the crowd. But instead, he approached her, his expression open yet guarded. "Excuse me," he said, his voice deep and smooth like fine whiskey. "Is the seat taken?" Clara blinked, surprised at the directness of his question. No, not at all." He settled beside her, his presence filling the space. "I am Oliver," he introduced himself, offering a hand. "Clara." Her palm met his, warm and firm. There was an electric charge in that simple gesture, a spark that sent butterflies fluttering in her stomach. "What brings you to this station?" Oliver asked, leaning forward slightly, his interest piqued. "I am visiting a friend in the city," Clara replied, attempting to appear casual. "She is a writer, too. I thought maybe I could find some inspiration." "A writer?" Oliver's eyes brightened, revealing a hint of admiration. "That's intriguing. What do you write?" Clara hesitated, the weight of self-doubt creeping in. "Mostly fiction. Short stories, really." "Short stories can be powerful," he countered, his gaze unwavering. "They require precision and emotion. That's not easy." She smiled, encouraged. "Thank you. I've been struggling with my latest piece, though, that feels unfinished. Maybe it just needs time." His tone was encouraging, but Clara caught a flicker of something else in his eyes, an unspoken understanding, perhaps. As they chatted, Clara found herself captivated not only by his words but by the way he listened intently and with genuine interest. They exchanged stories about their lives, the struggles and triumphs that shaped them. Oliver spoke of his family's legacy, the weight of expectations that came with being a self-made millionaire. Clara could sense the burden he carried, veiled beneath his charming demeanor. "It is strange, isn't it?" he mused, a hint of sadness creeping into his voice. "Everyone assumes wealth is everything, but it can be isolating." Clara nodded, feeling an unexpected kinship. "I understand. Sometimes I feel isolated too, lost in a sea of rejection letters." Oliver's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, silence enveloped them. It was the kind of silence that buzzed with unspoken words and thoughts. Clara could feel her pulse quicken, the air thick with an unnameable tension. The train's arrival was heralded by a rumble that shook the platform, shattering the moment. Clara's heart sank slightly. She didn't want this connection to end. "Well, that is my train," she said reluctantly, standing up. "Where are you headed?" he asked, standing with her. "East Bay, just for the weekend." He leaned closer, as if to share a secret. I'll be in the city for a few days, if you're free. I'd love to continue our conversation. Clara's breath caught in her throat. The offer was unexpected, yet exhilarating. Really? Only if you re comfortable, he added quickly, a hint of vulnerability emerging. I just find you fascinating. A flutter of warmth spread through her at his words. I'd like that, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The train pulled in, and as the doors opened, Clara felt a rush of anxiety and excitement. Here we go, she said, forcing a smile. Oh wait. Oliver reached into his pocket, pulling out a sleek business card. Here, call me when you're resettled. I want to hear more about your stories. Clara took the card, feeling the smooth surface between her fingers. I will, she promised, tucking it carefully into her satchel. As she stepped onto the train, she turned to look back at him. Oliver stood there, a confident silhouette against the backdrop of the station, an enigmatic smile playing on his lips. The train doors slid shut, separating them, yet the connection lingered, electric and undeniable. The journey unfolded around her, the rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks punctuating her thoughts. Her mind swelled with excitement and a hint of unease. What would it mean to befriend a man like Oliver? He was a million miles from her world, yet his presence felt so familiar, so inviting. As the scenery blurred past her window, Clara's thoughts drifted to the captivating stranger who had appeared at the station. A million questions danced in her mind about his life, his dreams, and the weight of his reality. She couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter might change everything. Yet, deep within her, a voice whispered doubts. Could she really step into his world? Or would she forever remain an outsider? Clara swallowed hard, trying to silence the rising tide of insecurities. She had made a promise to herself for change, and it seemed Oliver might just be the catalyst she needed. The train pressed on, and with it, Clara's heart soared at the thought of what lay ahead. She had taken the first step toward a new beginning, and for the first time in a long while, the future felt tantalizingly bright. The scenery outside the train window shifted from bustling urban life to rolling hills and sleepy towns, each frame capturing a fleeting moment of life passing by. Clara pressed her forehead against the cool glass, her mind adrift with thoughts of Oliver. What was it about him that was so captivating? Was it his confidence? The way he seemed to understand her struggles without judgment? Or perhaps it was the way he had looked at her, as if he could see deep into her beyond her doubts, beyond her walls. As the train glided through the landscape, Clara shifted in her seat, trying to quell the nervous flutter in her stomach. She had promised herself she would reach out to him once she settled in. But what if he didn't feel the same spark? A flicker of doubt crept in, nudging against the warmth of excitement. Her phone buzzed, breaking the spell of her thoughts. It was a message from her friend, Lily, an encouraging note that she hoped Clara was ready for the weekend. Clara smiled, biting her lower lip. She had missed Lily, the way they could share everything without fear of judgment. Clara quickly replied, letting her friend know she was on her way. The train swayed gently, the sound of laughter from a group of friends nearby catching her attention. She glanced around, noticing couples intertwined, their fingers laced, whispers shared in intimate corners, and she felt that familiar pang of longing. But what would it be like to explore a connection with Oliver? It was both thrilling and terrifying. Clara wrestled with the thought. She had never been one to leap into new relationships to embrace the unknown. But this felt different, a beckoning toward something more, something that could shatter her mundane patterns. The train pulled into East Space Station, and Clara felt a rush of anticipation as she gathered her things. The moment she stepped off the train, her breath caught in her throat. The air was fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers, and the city hummed with energy. Clara! Lily's voice rang out, interrupting her thoughts. The sight of her friend, with her sun-kissed hair and sparkling eyes, was a welcome relief. Tay! Clara waved, her heart lifting at the familiar sight. They embraced tightly, Lily's warmth wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. I am so glad to see you. How was the train ride? Lily asked, pulling back to assess Clara's face. Long but good, Clara replied, her heart still fluttering from the earlier encounter. Met someone interesting. Oh? Lily's eyebrows shot up, an excited grin spreading across her face. Do tell. Clara hesitated, the details of her brief yet intense conversation with Oliver swelling in her mind. Just a guy at the station. He asked different. Different how? Lily pressed, her curiosity piqued. Charming, confident, a millionaire, Clara admitted, her pulse racing. Wow, a millionaire. What is he like? Clara bit her lip, searching for the right words. He really down to earth. We talked about writing, about life, and he seemed to get me. Lily's eyes sparkled. You have to text him. You can let a connection like that slip away. Clara felt the heat rush to her cheeks. I don't know, Lily. What if it was just a moment? What if I am reading too much into it? Clara, you're a writer, Lily teased gently. You're supposed to read between the lines. Go for it. As they made their way through the vibrant streets of East Bay, Clara's thoughts remained tangled in the web of possibility. They arrived at Lily's cozy apartment, a haven of warmth and creativity. Clara felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her, the familiar colors and scents grounding her. Let us get you settled, and then we can talk more, Lily suggested, leading her inside. The living room was filled with an array of books stacked up haphazardly, the scent of jasmine tea wafting through the air. Clara sank into the plush couch, her heart racing as she considered her next move. After unpacking, Clara found herself staring at Oliver's business card resting on her nightstand. It was a simple white card, his name and number printed neatly. A wave of uncertainty washed over her as she picked it up, running her fingertips over the smooth surface. I think I might text him, Clara said, biting the inside of her cheek as she turned to Lily. You definitely should. Lily encouraged, sipping her tea. Do it now. What is the worst that could happen? Rejection? Clara muttered, feeling a swirl of anxiety. For a wonderful adventure, Lily countered, her eyes sparkling mischievously. With a deep breath, Clara opened her phone and typed the message, her fingers trembling slightly. Hi, Oliver. It's Clara from the station. I was thinking about our conversation and would love to continue it if you were free. She hesitated, staring at the message, feeling a rush of vulnerability wash over her. With a deep breath, she pressed send, her heart racing. Then she declared, feigning confidence, but her stomach churned with uncertainty. See easy. Lily clapped her hands, her excitement infectious. Now we wait. As they chatted and reminisced about old times, Clara felt the tension ebb slightly. But every time her phone buzzed, her heart leaped in her chest, expecting Oliver's name to appear. The minutes turned into an hour, and just as Clara began to doubt her decision, her phone lit up with a reply. Clara, I do love that. How about dinner tomorrow evening? A surge of joy flooded through her, mingling with a dash of disbelief. He wants to meet. Clara exclaimed, her voice barely above a whisper as she turned the phone toward Lily. See, I told you. Lily laughed, her eyes wide with excitement. You have to plan the perfect outfit. This is a date. A date? Clara echoed, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. I didn't think. Of course it is. You two have chemistry. Embrace it. Clara felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. As she began to consider what to wear, she was flooded with insecurities. What would he think of her? She was used to hiding behind her words, expressing herself on pages rather than in person. Just be yourself, Clara, Lily urged, her voice steady and reassuring. He liked you for who you are. Don't he overthink it? Clara nodded, though the doubt lingered in her mind like a shadow. She spent the evening with Lily, talking about everything and nothing, yet her thoughts kept drifting back to Oliver. The way he had looked at her, the unspoken connection that buzzed between them, it was intoxicating. As night fell, Clara finally curled up in the cozy space of her old friend's apartment, her mind racing. The prospect of dinner with Oliver felt both exhilarating and crushingly daunting. Would she be able to let go of her insecurities? Could she step into this new world? With her heart pounding in her chest, Clara closed her eyes, dreaming of the possibilities that awaited her. The next evening dawned with a gentle warmth, the sun spilling golden light across East Bay. Clara stared into her closet, a battlefield of clothes strewn about as her anxiety mounted. What did one wear to dinner with the millionaire? Something that feels like here. Lily called from the living room, her voice buoyant. Clara could hear her shuffling around, likely preparing her own outfit. Easier said than done. Clara replied, her reflection in the mirror revealing a mix of excitement and self-doubt. She settled on a simple yet flattering navy dress that accentuated her curves without being overly revealing. Perfect choice, Lily exclaimed, stepping into the room with a dazzling smile. You look beautiful, Clara, just the right amount of effortless. Clara felt a blush creep up her cheeks. Thanks, Lily. I just hope I don't embarrass myself. You won't. Just remember, he is probably just as nervous as you are, Lily reassured, tucking a loose strand of hair behind Clara's ear. Now, let us add some finishing touches. As Lily rummaged through her jewelry box, Clara's mind drifted back to Oliver. She could still remember his accent, the way his green eyes glimmered with genuine curiosity as they spoke. With a deep breath, she wiped her clammy hands against her dress, trying to dispel the nervous energy coursing through her. Here. Lily handed Clara a pair of delicate gold earrings. These will add just the right sparkle. Clara fastened them, admiring her reflection. What if he sees right through me? She whispered, biting her lip. He won tea, remember. He noticed your passion for writing. Just be yourself, Lily encouraged, squeezing her shoulder. You're amazing. As they made their way to the restaurant, Clara replayed their first encounter in her mind, the way Oliver had leaned closer, the warmth that enveloped them as they connected. She had never felt that kind of chemistry before, and it both thrilled and terrified her. I just remind myself that he is a person too, Clara said, her voice wavering. He has his own insecurities, right? Exactly, Lily replied, her upbeat demeanor unwavering. And Yuri is equal, Clara. Just talk to him like you did at the station. No pressure. They arrived at the restaurant, a charming place adorned with twinkling fairy lights. Clara's heart raced as she stepped inside, the atmosphere warm and inviting. It was bustling yet intimate, casting a spell of romance that wrapped around her like a soft embrace. Here we are, Lily said, scanning the room. Where is he at? Clara's breath hitched as she spotted Oliver at the bar, casually dressed in a fitted shirt and dark jeans. He looked up just as she walked in, their eyes locking across the crowded room. The corners of his mouth lifted into a smile that sent her stomach fluttering. Wow, Lily murmured, nudging Clara lightly. He is even more handsome than I remember. Clara felt a rush of heat to her cheeks as she walked toward him, her heart pounding in rhythm to the echo of her step. Hi, Oliver, she said, her voice shaky but genuine. Clara, he greeted, rising from his seat. The way he said her name made her feel like the only person in the room. You look stunning. Thank you, Clara replied, her heartbeat quickening. You clean up well yourself. He chuckled, a deep rumble that sent shivers down her spine. Shall we? He gestured toward their table, a cozy spot tucked away in a corner. As they sat down, Clara felt a wave of nerves wash over her. The air crackled with unspoken tension, and she couldn't help but steal glances at him. So, how has your day been? She asked, attempting to break the ice. Busy, but good. I was thinking about our conversation at the station, Oliver replied, leaning back slightly, his gaze steady and engaged. It is refreshing to talk to someone who understands the creative struggle. I do like to hear more about your work, too, Clara said, feeling the butterflies stir in her stomach. You mentioned being a self-made millionaire. That must come with its own challenges. It does, he admitted, glancing down thoughtfully. Success can be isolating. People often want something from you, and it is hard to find genuine connections. Clara nodded, feeling an unexpected kinship. I get that. It is not easy to be seen for who you truly are, especially in a world filled with expectations. Their conversation flowed naturally, each word weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and dreams. Clara felt herself loosening up, her laughter mingling with his. The tension that once consumed her began to dissipate, replaced by an exhilarating sense of possibility. Tell me about your writing process, Oliver said, his eyes lighting up. What do you draw inspiration from? Clara leaned in, her passion igniting. Everything life, experiences, even the mundane can spark a story. I believe the beauty of writing lies in capturing emotions. I agree, he replied, his voice slow and earnest. There is power in vulnerability. I admire that. A moment of silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken words and heated gazes. Clara could feel the pull of his gaze, the way it anchored her in the moment. It was intoxicating. Can I ask you something? Oliver said, breaking the spell. Clara nodded, her heart racing. What do you really want from your writing? She paused, weighing her thoughts. I want to evoke emotions, to make someone feel seen and understood, to create a world where they can escape. That is a beautiful aspiration, he said softly, his gaze unwavering. I think you will achieve it. The waiter approached, breaking the charged moment with a menu in hand. Ready to order? He asked, interrupting their intimate exchange. In just a second, Clara said, trying to control the blush on her cheeks. As they ordered their meals, Clara found herself stealing glances at Oliver, feeling a magnetic pull toward him. When the waiter left, Clara cleared her throat, feeling the need to address the tension that lingered. So about last night, I texted you, and I wasn't sure if you'd respond, she admitted, her voice quieter now. I was pleasantly surprised, Oliver said, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. I've been looking forward to this all day. Really? Clara asked, her pulse quickening. You didn't think it was just a casual thing? Not at all, he replied, a sincere look crossing his features. You are captivating, Clara. I wouldn't want to let this chance slip away. Her heart raced at his words, a warmth spreading through her. I am glad, she confessed, a shy smile breaking through her initial reservations. I was a bit worried. Worried about what? He asked, leaning closer as if he could close the distance between them. That maybe it was just a fleeting moment, you know? Clara replied, feeling emboldened by the weight of the connection. I didn't want to misread anything. Sometimes the best moments come from taking risks, Oliver said, his voice low and inviting. That is how I see this. A shiver coursed through her at the intensity in his gaze. Clara could sense the uncharted territory they were stepping into, and she felt her heart race at the thought. Before she could respond, their meals arrived, momentarily breaking the charged atmosphere. They continued to share stories between bites, laughter and lightness returning to their conversation. But the tension never quite dissipated, lingering in the spaces between their words. As they finished their meal, Clara caught Oliver watching her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. What is on your mind? He asked, his voice soft yet probing. I am just overwhelmed by how easy this feels, Clara admitted, her heart thumping. It's like I've known you forever. Maybe we were meant to meet, he mused, his eyes never leaving hers. You've brought a breath of fresh air into my life. The way he looked at her made her feel beautiful, alive. I am glad, she whispered, her cheeks flushing under the weight of his gaze. As they delved deeper into conversation, Clara felt the world around them fade away. They shared dreams, fears, and pieces of their lives they rarely revealed to others. Clara could feel the chemistry crackling, an electric pull that drew them closer. Do you believe in destiny? Oliver asked suddenly, the earnestness in his voice tinged with vulnerability. I think our paths cross for a reason, Clara replied, her heart racing. But I also believe we have to be willing to embrace those opportunities. I am all for embracing new experiences, he said, leaning even closer now, the warmth of his body radiating toward her. And I want to embrace this, he added, his voice barely above a whisper. Her breath caught in her throat, the unspoken tension coiling tighter around them. Clara's heart raced, a mix of anticipation and fear. Should she take that? As Clara sat across from Oliver, the flickering candlelight cast warm shadows across their faces, illuminating the intensity of the moment. Her heart raced, caught in the whirlwind of their conversation, the chemistry between them palpable. Do you believe in destiny? Oliver had asked, his voice a deep murmur that wrapped around her like a soft blanket. The sincerity in his eyes made her pulse quicken, and she felt the weight of the question hang between them. I think our paths cross for a reason, Clara replied, trying to sound confident. But I also believe we have to be willing to embrace those opportunities. She could feel the heat of his gaze penetrating her, urging her to open up more. I am all for embracing new experiences, he said, leaning closer, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. And I want to embrace this. Each word was like a promise, and the way he looked at her made her heart flutter with something both thrilling and terrifying. Clara's breath caught in her throat, the unspoken tension coiling tighter around them. She could sense how close they were to crossing an invisible line, but doubt flickered in her mind like a candle struggling against the wind. Could she really let herself fall into this? What do you mean by embracing this? She asked, her voice shaky. I mean, we've just met, that's a lot. Even as she spoke, she felt the urge to lean closer, to bridge the space between them that tugged at her like a magnet. Oliver's expression softened, and a corner of his mouth quirked into a smile that made her heart race. I mean this connection we have, he replied earnestly. I've met countless people in my life, but something about you feels different, genuine. Different how? Clara pushed, a mixture of curiosity and anxiety bubbling within her. She could feel her heart thumping loudly in her chest, the anticipation palpable. It is your passion, he said, his gaze unwavering. And the way you see the world, you have this ability to capture life in a way that draws people in. It is both refreshing and captivating. Clara felt her cheeks warm under his compliment, a mixture of pride and hesitation washing over her. I sometimes feel like an outsider in my own life, she admitted softly, her vulnerability spilling into the air. Why is that? Oliver asked, his voice low and gentle, inviting her to share more. Because my dreams don't always align with those around me, she confessed, looking down at her hands. I want to write stories that evoke feelings, but the world often feels distant. I worry that I'll never be enough. Oliver's expression shifted, a seriousness threading into his tone. You are more than enough, Clara, Don't he let anyone make you feel otherwise?" The sincerity in his voice stirred something deep within her, a warmth spreading through her chest. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. She looked up to meet his eyes, and in that moment, the world around them faded to a soft blur, nothing mattered except for the electricity crackling between them. But just as Clara felt herself leaning closer, the waiter returned to check if they needed anything else. The moment shattered, the intimacy evaporating as he placed their dessert order. Clara felt a wave of disappointment wash over her, the unspoken words hanging in the air. "Are you always this charming?" she teased lightly, trying to mask the tension that had built up. "Or is it just me?" Oliver chuckled, his gaze unyielding. "I think you bring it out in me. I am usually focused on work, but tonight feels different." "Good different or bad different?" Clara asked, her heart racing at the prospect of what he might say. "Good," he said firmly. "I can remember the last time I felt this way. It is liberating." She smiled, feeling a warmth bloom in her chest as the dessert was placed in front of them. "What do you usually do for fun?" she asked, trying to steer the conversation toward lighter territories. "After long work days, I like to unwind with a good book or hit the gym," he replied casually. "But I am always open to new experiences. What about you?" "I am usually at my desk or lost in the pages of a novel," Clara admitted. "I love going to art galleries, exploring new cafes, finding inspiration in the little things." "Maybe we should explore together," Oliver suggested, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. "I could use a little more art in my life." Clara's heart fluttered at the invitation, the prospect of spending more time together igniting a spark of excitement within her. "That sounds perfect," she replied, her voice lightening. As they finished their dessert, the conversation flowed naturally, laughter punctuating their words. But as Clara shared stories about her life, she became acutely aware of the subtle glances from other patrons. A couple at the nearby table exchanged whispers, their eyes flitting toward her and Oliver. "Do you ever feel like people are watching?" Clara asked, her voice suddenly tense. The laughter from earlier faded, and a tightness gripped her chest. "Sometimes," Oliver replied, glancing at the couple. "But they can understand the connection we have. That is what matters." He reached across the table, his warm hand brushing against hers, grounding her in the moment. Clara felt a jolt of electricity where their skin met, and it was enough to chase away the unease that had begun to settle in. "You were right," she said, her voice steadier now. "This is our moment." "Exactly," he said, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "Let us not let anyone steal that from us." As their conversation resumed, Clara allowed herself to enjoy the warmth of Oliver's presence, the way he listened intently, the way his laughter intertwined with hers. But in the back of her mind, the other doubt lingered. What if this was just a fleeting moment for him? What if he saw her as a temporary distraction? "Tell me about your family," Clara prompted, wanting to know more about him to shift the focus. "What are they like?" Oliver's expression shifted, a flicker of something deeper passing over his features. "My family is complicated," he admitted, his tone somber. "They have high expectations, and sometimes it feels like I am living for them rather than myself." "Is that why you've become so focused on work?" Clara asked gently, sensing the way he carried. "Partly," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck as if trying to shake off a burden. "I want to prove to them that I am capable, that I can succeed on my own terms, but it is exhausting." Clara nodded, understanding the pressure that came with expectations. "I know that feeling," she said softly. "Sometimes I feel like I am writing to prove myself rather than express myself. That is a fine line." "Exactly," Oliver said, his gaze intense. "But I think creativity should be about passion, not obligation. You should write because it brings you joy." "I wish I could believe that," Clara replied, her voice heavy with vulnerability. "It is hard to let go of the fear of failure." "Then let us help each other," Oliver suggested, leaning closer, the warmth between them palpable again. "Let us create a space where we can be free to pursue our passions without fear." Clara felt her heart leap at his words, the possibilities unfurling like petals in bloom. "I do like that," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. But just as she felt the moment deepen, her phone buzzed vigorously on the table, cutting through the intimacy like a sharp knife. Clara's heart sank as she glanced at the screen. "Sorry, it is probably just my alarm," she muttered, fumbling for the device. Oliver watched her, an inscrutable expression on his face. "Everything okay?" I forgot to set an alarm for tomorrow's meeting," Clara explained, her heart racing. But as she read the message on her screen, her stomach sank. It was from her boss, reminding her of an important meeting that would take place the following morning. I need to prepare for this, she said, a frown knitting her brows. Is it urgent? He asked, concern lacing his tone. Not urgent, but it is important, Clara replied, feeling a sense of frustration rising within her. She had wanted this evening to be perfect, to let go of the worries that clouded her mind. Oliver reached across the table, his thumb brushing against her knuckles. You can handle it, he said, his voice soothing. You're talented, Clara. Don't you let the pressure get to you. She smiled faintly, grateful for his support. Thank you, I just wish I could escape it for a little while longer. Then let us make the most of the time we have left, he said, a playful glint in his eyes. Tell me more about your stories. What is your favorite piece you've written? Clara felt the warmth of his touch linger on her skin as she settled back into their conversation. It is hard to choose, she said, her heart swelling as she spoke about her work.